Our first game is going to be the Great Game Debate. This is where we like to look at a game that has stood the test of time and has been determined by the community at large that it is a great game. But do the four of us believe it's a great game? So today we're going to be talking about Great Western Trail, and we're going to cut away for a moment for an explanation. In Great Western Trail, you're a rancher traveling from Texas to Kansas City in hopes to deliver the best herd of cattle. On your turn of Great Western Trail, you will move your guy 1 to 3 spaces. A space is consisted of a building. The game starts off with 7 buildings that anybody can use. But as the game progresses, you'll be able to build buildings of your own. These buildings will give you additional places to visit, additional actions to take, and also give you the option to block your opponents from also placing desired actions or breaking up a combo. When you land on one of the action spaces, you can do one or both actions. The locations you visit will help you do a couple things. You can visit the cattle market, improving your deck of cards. You can visit the job market, hiring new people to work for you, making your actions later in the game better. Or you can advance your train down the railroad. When you arrive in Kansas City, you will put out new hazards, you'll put out new workers, and then you can choose to put out a hazard or a worker or whatever is in that area. Here is where you'll sell back your cattle. Then you have the option to deliver your cattle up to the distance of your train. For each X that you pass, you do have to pay 1 additional money. So if you're in Wichita, you need to pay 1, 2, 3 more money to get to Santa Fe. When you deliver the cattle and decide which city you want to drop your cattle off, you're going to take your personal player board and take one of these discs to place it on the city that you just delivered cattle. This is going to unlock abilities in the game to take better actions or new actions. At the end of the game, you're going to score the victory points for the buildings you have in place, for the hazards that you have cleared. You'll gain victory points for the locations that your trains have visited. You will also gain victory points for the cows that you have in your deck. And that is how you play Great Western Trail.
Thank you, Daniel, for that excellent explanation of Great Western Trail.
Well, thank you. All right. So, as per our new rules, I'm going to start. So, my feelings on Great Western Trail. We played it the other night just to get a nice refresher, and I'm glad we did. I've really enjoyed Great Western Trail over the years, but yesterday's gameplay of it was kind of a reminder about how solid this game is. And the more you play it, the more you can appreciate it. It's a really fun, a lot of the stuff that you get to do is pretty exciting in it. You get to, like hire individuals, you get to build buildings, and you also get to advance your train. So all 3 of these things are kind of like from different game mechanisms, I guess, but they're all kind of smashed into this one game, which makes it for a really good, exciting experience. So on your turn, when you're running around each location, you get to decide, are you going to pass some of these locations because maybe you don't care about advancing your train very much, or maybe you want to build up a better hand of cattle, so that you're deck building more, or maybe you're going to build up your tableau as you're hiring more people. So the vast amount of things that you get to do and how diverse it is every time makes this game really exciting and makes it continually be something that's worth exploring. The game I played, I think there was 4 of, I know there was 4 of us, and we all were within 5 points of each other, except for the person who won, but which was Laura Evans, our friend. And but we were all like, we all took different paths. Any games that allow you to take different paths and still end up with about the same winning ratio or come close to it, to me, is a game that really shines, and I can always appreciate that. So that was my take on it. I think John might be a little more contrary to this. So, John, how do you feel?
Well, thank you, Daniel. And yeah, I was getting ready to sink my teeth into this segment because I, and you may not know it, but I am a Western game aficionado. I'm doing a series right now that's going to be coming up on the YouTube channel where it's called Clear My KLAX, where I'm going through all my KLAX and seeing what games I need to get rid of. Good percentage of them are Western themed games because it's just something that calls out to me, what have you. And I was like that. And so I was busting my chops trying to get this game played back in the day when it first came out. And then I finally get it played. And maybe it was the explanation. I don't know. I've said this all along, that it was just explained to me mechanically. This is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do. and I couldn't end that game quick enough. I'm like, this game is just ridiculous. It's just a mishmash of garbage, and I don't even know what's going on. And later on, I'm talking to Daniel about, oh, you didn't like herding your cattle onto the train and send them. I had no idea that's what I was doing. I had cows in my hand. Is that what I'm doing with them? I don't know. I know I have to have them. I had no idea that's what the theme of the game was. And after playing it again, to re-energize my hatred for it, I kind of almost fell in love with it. So I got to kind of change my tune a little bit because it was a fun time. I had a great time playing it the other day. I'm glad I had to play it for this show because I did enjoy my play. However, I still don't think it's the great game everybody says it is. It still gets a little tedious and monotonous because you are kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe a little bit of variations because you're like, well, I'm going to save money, not move my train so I can hire more people, or I can buy the better cattle because I'm going to be buying them pretty soon. And I understand that'll change up each time too. But during the game, it's going to kind of stay about the same. The hazards along the way are going to change, but other than that, but if you don't have money to pay for the hazards, you don't have to pay for them. So that's another thing. Another way to look at it is, hey, just blow through your money because then you don't have to pay for the hazards. But overall, I got to say it is a good game, but it's a good themeless type Euro game. It still doesn't have that theme where you feel like you're doing what it says you're doing, but it was a lot better than the first time I played it. So maybe it's in the teach. Have somebody that loves the game teach it to you and can teach it well.
I think
John, you're ridiculous.
It's just because you played with me. That's why.
Maybe that's it.
You are ridiculous. This game is all
Andy?
about cows. No, but we have a little moment here to chew each other out. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chew you out right now.
I like the fact that this game is from Kansas and we're from Kansas, so we should innately like it.
Exactly.
I thought you would appreciate that theme of it at least, John. So
because
I'm glad at least you
Kansas
turned the corner on there.
I'll get to it when it's my turn, but the whole thing is you're collecting cows and you're moving them along. I mean, how can you say it's not thematic? The whole thing is thematic.
All right. Well, you sit on that for a little bit longer there, Andy. Let's hear from Chris.
All right. Yeah. So I will say, though, thematically, I'm not sure I actually enjoy the theme, mostly because it just reinforces the only thing that historically people have come to Kansas City for was to drop their cows off. And I'm not super happy about that. But regardless, we're changing that narrative recently with some national titles with the Chiefs and the Royals. So anyways, regardless, back to what matters. So I have an interesting situation with this game and history with this game. I've only played it twice technically. And the first time I played it, it wasn't a great session. I kind of came away with it kind of like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I see why people love it, but I didn't really like it. Now, granted, that play didn't go very well. In fact, it's a very kind of funny known history situation about me and that game in our play group because I played it with some people at our local gaming night. And this one person we were playing with, they just couldn't get past exactly what the rules are. They don't understand the idea of like, oh, we'll just play it this way and move on and figure it out after the game and play it right next time if we need to. It has to be right the first time every time. Eventually I got so tired and annoyed that I told them that I was like, well, I'm so glad that you got the training that you need to pass the bar exam for a rules lawyer. And that was kind of interesting. But anyway, so the first play didn't go very well. I played it again recently with some friends of ours that really like the game, the Evans, like we've talked about many times before. And I really liked it. I came away understanding what the real rave about it was. And like in most games, right? Like in most every game, there's some amount of engine building, right? Like some are more than others, but there's very few games you don't have some sort of engine that you're building, right? But this one, I really enjoyed the way it works. Like not only are you you're kind of building your deck of hands of cards of the cows and taking them to Kansas City, but like you're building these buildings along the way that you're interacting with along the way that are kind of filtering and adjusting and doing things with your deck. So it's not just, draw cards, play them, draw more like in Dominion. You're actually drawing some, and then you're going to your building and you're going to sell a couple cows and get another card and this and that. And so you're trying to, manipulate them as you go. And I don't know, like it's the train situation part at the top is okay. That's all right. It doesn't really flip my lid too much, but it's a fine mechanic. But the normal movement from point A to point B of drawing your cards and manipulating and filtering your deck as you get to Kansas City, I really like. So, and the
I really like that.
there. I'm not much for theme, but it is certainly there too.
I like that you brought up the engine building of it. I think this game is engine building, but in like several different ways, because you got engine building for your people, you got for your hand, and for your buildings that you're placing on your board.
Which is a great point to segue into my point, which it's my turn now. So, hello. Hi there. Yes,
How are
thank
you, doing, Andy?
Howdy.
Didn't you just say we have this time?
I thought we did.
All the
No,
Yeah,
time?
the rules
Andy has
all
that
bend
Just said
around
that.
my
Andy has that time.
whatever. And now my time's running out. Okay.
Andy knows
listen,
what he wants to say, and he has to say it now.
I do. I have no impulse control at all. So listen, this game, you guys, I guess I'm pleasantly surprised that you guys all seem to like the game, at least in your second or third go around with it. I liked it from the very beginning. I love this game. And the reason I love it is because I feel like there are so many unique ways to play this game. There are ways I have not tried to win yet. So for instance, there are so many buildings and I have not really even utilized the buildings. I tend to default to doing the cow thing and building up the cowboys, but you can focus on building up your buildings and do all kinds of cool stuff. You can focus on moving the train along and do some cool stuff. There's just different paths to victory, and that's the sign of a great game. And the other thing is there is a little bit of take that. There's a little bit of laying traps for people and trying to make people do things. And I do enjoy that. You can also kind of watch what they're doing and you can move along faster and hurry the end of the game up. I really, really like this game. It's got a deck building element to it that's a lot of fun with the cows. I will say the very first few times we played it, we actually played it wrong. We didn't discard our hands and refill our hands to 5 new ones. So we kept. I think that's what we did.
Oh,
we
when you
refill our
sold them at
hands.
the end of when you sold them at Kansas City, you didn't discard them?
No, we discarded them, but we didn't refill to 5.
Oh.
Yeah, no, like if you sold the cow on one of the buildings, we didn't draw back up.
Oh,
Yeah,
Like,
that's
we
what it
just have
was.
4 cows now, or
Which-
3
which-
cows.
Which
Oh, wow.
surprisingly was actually still a fun game, but it was not the right way to play the game.
Yeah.
And it's a lot better when you play it the right way.
Mm.
But it's just a great game. I really don't have any problems with it whatsoever. And I think it's incredibly thematic, John. I mean, you've got different types of cows. You've got different types of buildings. You've got to fight off traps and get across the landscape and deal with the outlaws and different stuff. And it's a fascinating game. And again, as was mentioned, it's we live in the Kansas City area, and it mentions Kansas City. We've got friends in Topeka. It mentions Topeka. It mentions Wichita. It's got all these different cities that we have friends in. So, it is, if any game should be a good game for us, it should be this game. And by the way, Kansas City known as a cow town. Yes, you missed a really good point there, Chris. It's known for its steak, and it's still known for its steak. And I have no shame in saying that you can find some fine beef in Kansas City.
Okay,
fine with
are
it.
you talking about just steak as a whole, or are you talking about the Kansas City Strip specifically?
Well, the Kansas City Strip is a cut, but it just steak as a whole, because you got the stockyards. That's down where Kemper Arena was and everything. The West Bottoms. It was
Right, but
known
that was
for
people dropping their cows off. That's what I'm talking about.
It was people dropping their cows off, but because of that, a lot of steak places came to be, and it's one of the premier places in the world to get a good steak.
So I'm assuming you love Mahomes and you eat like a child, Andy, that you put ketchup on your steak. Is that true?
Ooh,
That is,
yeah.
I do eat like a child often, but no, I do not. I do not put ketchup on my steak. In fact, I live by this motto. It may sound a little arrogant, but my motto is, if it's cooked right, it shouldn't need any kind of sauce.
Ah, there
That's
you go.
true.
That's
if
a
it's a
one.
good cut too. If it's not a good cut, sometimes that
That's
matters
true.
how it's cooked.
All right. Well, this isn't a food podcast, so we're gonna move on.
Dang
So
it.
you guys, we really enjoyed this overall. I'm glad we turned John from his hatred of this game to at least a mild like.
I
And
wanted
hey-
to unload so much vitriol on this game, and now I just can't.
I know. I was actually the response
so
to
disappointed
John
that I
after
liked it.
playing that game was, "Man, I wish you never played this again." 'Cause I was waiting for you to just unload on it, because we always try to pick a game that we are divided on, so that we're not a bunch of yes men. So when this one came up, we're like, "Oh yeah, we definitely have to play this one," because John thinks it's the worst game that's ever made, on par with Wonderland's War and how Chris felt. So, but just like that, John got his, the tide turned. So.
You turned my
I
rugged heart.
actually want to say, like, that first play made it to me where I was like, okay, again, like I said, like, I appreciate it. I can see why people like it. It's not for me though, right?
Yeah.
That's after that second play. Not only am I never going to say no to play it, I'm actually going to be like fairly excited to. I may not still suggest it ever, but I'm going to be like, oh, you want to play that? Okay, sweet, let's do that. Right.
Funny thing is, during the reteach when we played it the other day, I was getting that old feeling again. The first time I played it, I'm like, what did I get myself into? Why did I agree to play this again? And then, 3 turns in, I'm like, I kind of like this game. This is all right. So yeah,
I think there's 2 takeaways. One is if you played this game once and you didn't like it, you should give it another try. And 2, you should play it with the Evans because I think that's the
that's the common denominator there.
So hunt down Ryan and Laura Evans, Kansas, and come in.
Their address is.
Yeah, we're gonna have their phone numbers right down here.
And you love this game. Well, that's enough, guys. So if you've ever played Great Western Trail, leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts on Great Western Trail. And of course, if you would send us a like and subscribe, we would really appreciate it. If you enjoyed what you just watched, click on the embedded video for the rest of the episode.